Welcome back to another episode of Crime Scene X. Today's video will cover 3 abandoned building horror stories. Sit back and enjoy the video. Ever since I was a child, I've been drawn to abandoned buildings. The allure of the unknown, the thrill of uncovering hidden secrets, was too great to resist. However, one night's adventure changed my perspective on these forsaken places forever. It all started when I heard about the old Wickerson Mill at the edge of town. Towering and abandoned, the stories of its history fascinated me. Some said it was once the heart of the community, while others whispered about dark events that led to its downfall. On a particularly dark and chilly night, I decided to explore the mill. Armed with a flashlight, a camera, and a sense of daring curiosity, I set off. The moon hid behind thick clouds as I approached the ominous structure, its twisted metal and jagged broken windows like teeth in the night. Pushing open the creaky front door, I stepped inside, and my senses were immediately assaulted. The smell of damp, rotting wood mingled with something else, something foul and earthy. Shapes took form as my flashlight pierced the darkness, revealing machines cloaked in cobwebs, walls stained by time, and an intricate pattern of shadows. As I ventured further, my footsteps echoed through the desolate space, the only sound in the otherwise silent night. But as I reached the second floor, something changed. A noise, faint and distant, reached my ears. It was a scuffling sound, followed by a soft, ragged breathing. I froze, listening intently, but the sound vanished as quickly as it had come. I shrugged it off as my imagination playing tricks and continued exploring. The deeper I went, the more unsettling the mill became. Graffiti covered the walls, some of it strange and cryptic. Rooms filled with discarded belongings told stories of those who once sought refuge here. But the most unsettling of all were the smells. At times, the damp, moldy scent would be replaced by something much more putrid, like decaying meat. As I entered what must have been a living quarter, my heart skipped a beat. There, in the middle of the room, was a makeshift bed, surrounded by tattered clothing and empty cans. Someone had been living here. My curiosity turned into fear, and that's when I heard it again. The soft scuffling, the ragged breathing, only now much closer. Panic set in, and I turned to leave, only to hear a voice, hoarse and angry. "Who's there?" I ran, the voice pursuing me, growing more enraged. The hallways twisted and turned, the horrifying shapes looming in the darkness, the smell of decay thick in the air. The man's footsteps pounded behind me, relentless and terrifying. My mind raced as I stumbled through the dark maze. Who was he? What did he want? But all that mattered was escape. Finally, I reached the ground floor, but the door was blocked by debris. I frantically searched for another exit, my heart pounding in my chest, the man's footsteps growing closer and closer. I found a window, shattered it with a piece of metal, and scrambled out, cutting myself in the process. But I didn't care about the pain. I just needed to get away. I ran through the night, the haunting sounds of the mill fading into the distance. But the terror remained, etched into my very soul. I never went back to Wickerson Mill, nor did I speak of that night to anyone. The adventure had turned into a nightmare, one that continued to haunt my dreams. Months later, I read a news article about a homeless man found dead in the mill. He had been living there for years, plagued by mental illness and driven to violence. The realization that I had been so close to danger, stalked and chased by a tormented soul, scared me to my core. The allure of the unknown left me with a fear that I carry to this day, for in those forgotten corners of the world, you never truly know what you might find. In our small, tight-knit community, there was a house that had stood abandoned for as long as anyone could remember. The once white paint was chipped and faded, the yard was overrun with weeds, and the front porch sagged sadly. But it wasn't the exterior that fascinated the town's residents. It was the room below the stairs. A rumor had circulated through the town for decades about the peculiar room. The legend held that it was soundproofed with thick walls, and no one knew why. No one knew why the house's last occupant, Mr. Thompson, had constructed such a room, and no one knew why he suddenly disappeared, leaving the house to the ravages of time. I'm an amateur historian with a penchant for local folklore, and that room called to me. It was a mystery that begged to be solved. With the property's recent acquisition by the town, I got permission to explore the house and the enigmatic room. I still remember that cold and rainy day when I first stepped into the forsaken house. The smell of mildew and rot filled the air, and I could hear the soft creaking of the old wooden floorboards. The house seemed to groan, as if burdened by a heavy secret. I found the room below the stairs with relative ease. Its door was hidden, almost as if it was meant to go unnoticed. As I opened it, a gust of stale, cold air hit me, and I fumbled to find my flashlight. The air inside was oppressive, and I felt my heart pound in my chest. The room was smaller than I'd expected, about 8 feet by 8 feet. The walls were indeed thick, lined with a strange fabric that I assumed was for soundproofing. But what caught my attention was the equipment. A single wooden chair sat in the center of the room, stained with what looked like dark brown paint. Surrounding it were old recording devices, microphones and wires, all covered in dust. As I began to sift through the equipment, I found old tapes. They were labeled in neat handwriting with dates spanning several years. My curiosity piqued, and I decided to take the tapes home to listen. That night, with trepidation, I began to play the first tape. The quality was poor, but I could hear a man's voice, calm, controlled, and articulate. It was Mr. Thompson. He was conducting an interview, but the questions were strange, disjointed, and the responses were incoherent, filled with fear and confusion. With each tape, the questions became more twisted, the answers more frantic. I realized that these were not ordinary interviews. They were interrogations, filled with terror and pain. My blood ran cold as the truth dawned on me. The room below the stairs was not just soundproofed, it was isolated, hidden. Mr. Thompson had used it for something dark, something inhuman. The interviews were a facade, a cover for his real intentions. I listened to every tape, each one more harrowing than the last. The voices changed, but the fear remained, palpable and raw. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was listening to the echoes of suffering, trapped forever in those magnetic strips. For weeks, I delved deeper into Mr. Thompson's life. The more I learned, the more I understood that he was not the man the town had thought. He was a facade, a carefully constructed mask hiding a monster. The house was demolished, the room below the stairs erased, but the memories remained. I kept the tapes, a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind even the most ordinary facade. In the end, the room's mystery was solved, but the truth was more terrifying than any legend. It was a testament to human cruelty, hidden away in an unassuming house, beneath a staircase, behind a closed door. The room below the stairs still haunts me, and I often wonder how many other rooms are hidden away, holding secrets that are best left undiscovered. But the allure of the unknown, the pull of a mystery, is a siren's call that's hard to resist. And I know that one day, curiosity will lead me to another door, another room, another secret waiting to be uncovered. But I can't help but wonder, am I ready to face what might be hiding on the other side? The old industrial complex sat at the edge of the town, a collection of vast, decaying structures that had once housed bustling factories. Now, the buildings were empty, forsaken by time and consumed by the elements. Their walls were marred by graffiti, windows shattered, and roofs partially caved in. The complex had been abandoned for decades, and local legends had woven a dark tapestry of stories around it. Strange accidents, corruption, and a series of tragic events led to its closure, leaving behind a hollow shell that had become the stuff of nightmares for the town's children. Among those children was Emily, a curious and adventurous girl, always eager to explore what others feared. Her curiosity about the complex had grown into an obsession. She had heard every story, every legend, and she knew that she had to see it for herself. She wanted to experience the shapes, the smells, the sounds that had terrified so many others. One day, Emily decided to venture into the complex. Armed with a flashlight, a camera, and a heart pounding with anticipation, she approached the entrance of the first building. The giant metallic doors were ajar, the rusty hinges creaking with each gust of wind. As Emily stepped inside, the smell of dampness and decay filled her nostrils. The air was thick and heavy, laden with the scent of rotting wood, mold, and something else, something she couldn't quite identify. The building was vast, filled with the skeletal remains of machinery. The shapes were twisted and distorted, covered in rust and grime. Shadows danced on the walls as Emily's flashlight beam cut through the darkness. A soft drip echoed through the silence. water leaking through the roof, falling into the stagnant puddles on the floor. Emily's footsteps were the only sound as she made her way deeper into the building. The farther she went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The air grew colder, the smells more pungent, the shapes more menacing. She found herself in what appeared to be an old office space, filled with rotting furniture and tattered documents. The remnants of human activity were everywhere: desks, chairs, filing cabinets, but all consumed by time, corroded, and collapsing. She felt that she was not alone. The sense of being watched, of unseen eyes tracking her every move, grew stronger with each step. She tried to shake the feeling, reminding herself that there was nothing supernatural about this place, only the haunting memories of the past. As she continued to explore, Emily stumbled upon a room filled with photographs and newspaper clippings. There, she discovered the hidden truth about the complex: a series of accidents, unexplained deaths, and a trail of corruption that had led to its downfall. The pictures showed workers, faces etched with fatigue and despair, machinery looming large and dangerous, and officials looking satisfied and oblivious to the suffering around them. The clippings told of families torn apart, lives destroyed, and a community silenced by fear. Emily's heart raced as she pieced together the tragic story, realizing that the complex was not merely abandoned, but a monument to human failure, greed, and indifference. She continued her exploration, each room revealing more secrets, each corner echoing with the whispered tales of the past. The shapes, the smells, the sounds, they all merged into a symphony of terror, growing louder with each passing moment. Finally, Emily found herself in the deepest part of the complex, where the machinery was most massive and the shadows most profound. There, she stumbled upon something that froze her blood. A room filled with personal belongings, clothes, shoes, photographs, all left behind as if the people had vanished into thin air. The realization hit her like a tidal wave. The workers, the accidents, the cover-ups, they were all connected, part of a web of deception and cruelty that had left these people forgotten, their lives reduced to mere relics in this decaying tomb. The terror was no longer abstract, no longer confined to shapes and smells. It was real, palpable, and Emily knew that she had to leave. She had seen enough, felt enough, and the weight of the truth was too much to bear. As she retraced her steps, the shadows seemed to close in around her, the smells becoming more suffocating, the shapes more threatening. The feeling of being watched intensified, and Emily's mind raced with thoughts of what might still be lurking in the darkness. She finally reached the entrance, her heart pounding in her chest, her body trembling with fear and exhaustion. The metallic doors seemed to groan as she pushed them open, the rusty hinges crying out in protest. Once outside, Emily looked back at the complex, its dark silhouette looming large against the twilight sky. The terror she had felt was still there, but now it was mixed with a profound sense of sadness and understanding. Thanks for watching.